I'd like to take a moment and introduce you to the 6 different strings on an acoustic guitar. And I'd like to introduce you to the idea of the names and how we're going to designate what is what by talking about the strings that are closest to the floor and the strings that are closest to my face. And I'm going to do that by playing the string that's closest to the floor and by playing the string that's closest to my face. If you listen to the string that's closest to the floor using a pick, it has a very high voice. I'm now going to pluck the string that's closest to my face, and you'll notice it has a much lower voice, a much deeper voice. I'm going to do that again, but I want to describe this time the string that's closest to the floor is also the thinnest string. It creates the highest sound. And the string that's closest to my face is the thickest, most massive string, and it creates a very low, deep sound. In introducing the names and the numbers that we're going to use for each string, I'm going to start with the low string, the one closest to my face, and work to the high string, which is the one closest to the floor. Some people prefer to designate the strings with numbers, and some people prefer to use the letter names. Let me start with the numbers. Numbers are very straightforward. We start with the string with the lowest pitch, which is the one that's closest again to my face and to your faces. The 6th string. The 5th string is one string away from that, towards the floor. The 4th string. The 3rd string. The 2nd string. And now the highest pitch string, as you recall, the one that's closest to the floor and the one that is dimensionally the thinnest and least massive, the 1st string. Once again, we have 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Very important because as we get into later parts of the lessons, I may refer to playing on the 1st string or the 2nd string or the 6th string or the 4th string. So it takes the time now to familiarize yourself with the orientation 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 from the face down to the floor. One thing I would also mention is very simple to remember. The bigger the number, the bigger the string. The 6th string is the biggest string. It creates the lowest sound. The 1st string is the smallest string. It creates the highest sound. And we go from bigger strings to smaller strings on the way from our faces down to the floor. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'd now like to talk briefly and demonstrate another way that you can refer to the strings on a guitar. We've talked about 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but each one of these strings actually matches a note that you would play on, say, a piano or in a sheet of music. Those names are letters of the alphabet. So I'd like to introduce you now to those letter names that accompany each one of these strings. The string that's closest to my face, the most massive string as we call it, is the E string. Usually we use a capital E, as we'll see in just a minute. The next string down to the floor is the A string. The next string is the D string. Next string is the G string. Next string is the B string. And we're now at the thinnest string again, the one that's closest to the floor. That also is an E string, but because it has a high pitch, oftentimes we use a small or lowercase e to designate that, to differentiate it, to make it different from the massive string on top. There are several ways that you can remember the names of these strings. I realize that's a lot of stuff to remember. Some people prefer just to remember the letter designations. Again, from my face down to the floor, E, A, D, G, B, and E, sometimes called high E. However, there are also some mnemonic devices or some acronyms or some little sayings that we can use to remember those string names. Two of my favorites are elephants and donkeys grow big ears. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears. Great if you're into ears or elephants and donkeys. Very easy to remember. The other string designation that I like to use, the way of remembering, for those of you who may be a little bit more risky in your remembering of the string names, is Eddie, 8, dynamite, good, by, Eddie. Once again, Eddie, most massive string, lowest pitch, 8, dynamite, good, by, Eddie, highest pitch, thinnest string, closest to the floor. Make sure that you take the time with either the numbers, the alphabetic letters, or Eddie 8 dynamite, goodbye Eddie, or elephants and donkeys grow big ears. Make sure that you know which string is which before you proceed. It will really help your learning.